Hey everybody, this is the BS Podcast Network. I'm Ben Dorst.
Steven Dominguez.
At least this show is better than pure BS.
What?
What
are you? I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is Bond. I'm Batman.
Name's Bond.
James Bond.
I'm Batman.
Bond. James Bond. I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
This is the Batman vs. James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. And this is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. It is great to be back. I hope all of you have had a fantastic week. Mine was really good. It was really good. I think I mentioned this last week that I volunteered for an event called Open Streets. It happened here in Maryland. It promotes safe crossing of roads for pedestrians and bicyclists. It's for a great cause. I went dressed up in my Batman suit. Needless to say, I had a blast. I even got to direct some traffic out there. So make sure that you check out my Instagram at Batman vs. Bond for pictures. Now, this week I have a very special guest joining me on the show. He has written books such as The Unauthorized Batman Collectors Guide, James Bond, The History of the Illustrated 007, He has also founded Gotham Gazette, the Batman magazine on the web, and the long-running Gotham Weekly News email newsletter, and James Bond Lexicon, the unofficial guide to the world of 007 in movies, novels, and comics. Without further ado, let me welcome author Mr. Alan J. Porter. How are you, sir?
I am great. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to it.
No, thanks for joining me. That is quite an impressive resume, if I might say so.
Thank you. That's over quite a number of years, but yeah.
Yeah. I have to give the quick behind the scenes of how this interview came to be, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So I guess it was back in August, right? I posted on social media some kind of message saying, would you like to be a guest on the Batman vs. James Bond show? Message me. And then less than a few days later, I received this message, and I took this from your Twitter message. As I've written books and essays on both Bats and Bond, I'd be interested in having a chat sometime. And then I went back and I'm like looking on the internet, and I saw all the stuff that you've done. I was like, wow. I was like, I can't believe this. I'm so excited about this. So I've been really looking forward to this for a while now that our schedules have finally, collided, I guess you could say. So,
yeah, I've been looking forward to it too.
Yeah,
it's not often I get to chat both Batman and Bond on a podcast. It's usually one or the other. So yeah, it should be fun. So.
Good. So I always like to get a little bit of background about the guest on the show, just to see kind of where you're coming from. So I know this isn't like a pop quiz, but it is in a way. So don't worry, you didn't need to know the answers for it. First question I will have for you: what is your favorite Batman film?
Ooh.
Off the top of your head.
Batman Returns.
Batman Returns. Okay, that is, the more I do this show, the more that answer is coming up. Why Batman Returns, if you don't mind me asking?
Michelle Pfeiffer in the catsuit.
Good answer.
No, I just like the dynamic of it.
Okay.
I think Keaton's got into the role. By that point, I think it's a good Gothic tale, multi-layered.
Yeah,
it's sort of almost operatic in the way it's done. It's got its faults, but I think, for me, I think it works best as probably the best Batman one. I actually quite enjoyed Danny DeVito's take of the Penguin. I know a lot of people don't, but I really enjoy it. I think Christopher Walken was great. Michelle Pfeiffer was good. There's some great one-liners in it, some great set pieces. That's the one. It's a good Christmas movie, so that's the one we watch every Christmas. So, that and Die Hard are the two best Christmas movies.
Good man. Yeah, I know Unbond related, but Die Hard, we have to watch Die Hard 1 in my family. Right? It's either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. We have to watch that. But yeah. Batman Returns is definitely going to be added to my Christmas list. I had just recently bought it on Blu-ray because I used to have it on VHS, and I don't know why I never had it on Blu-ray. And I went back and watched it. I was like, this holds up really, really well. As a matter of fact, I think it's gotten better, and I think it's probably one of the more underrated Batman films. I think it's easy a lot of people say Batman 89 like myself and, The Dark Knight, but Batman Returns, I think, is still underappreciated. There's a lot of good moments in that. So,
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I always liked Michael Keaton's portrayal of Batman because he's my favorite cinematic Batman. So, and I think that's the best of the two movies.
Definitely. So, all right, good. What is your favorite James Bond film?
Talking of Christmas movies, On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Good answer. All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's the first one I saw in the cinema when I was giving my age away here. 10 years old. That was the first Bond movie I saw in the cinema.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And completely thrown by the fact that the guy on the screen wasn't the guy in the books and the magazines that I'd seen up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as the bad guy went under the snowplow, I was hooked. That's what hooked me on Bond, and I just love that movie. And I think it holds up the best because there's so few gadgets in it. There's like one gadget in it. It's close to the book. It really holds up well over time, a lot more than a lot of the other ones do. And again, I think it's a great story, and I think Lazenby was very underrated as an actor. I actually think he portrayed the most human Bond. That's the one I go back to all the time.
Very good choice.
And again, my wife and I saw it on the big screen a couple of years ago, and it holds up just as well on the big screen as it does. Even all these years, it's still a great movie to see in the theater.
And that score, that's a great
that's
score.
My favorite score.
Yes, we will be talking about that later, I promise you that. Okay. All right, let's talk about actors here. Who is your favorite Batman actor? You might have named that already. Michael Keaton. Okay, yeah. I think I talked about it a couple shows ago. I did because it was National Batman Day, as a matter of fact. And a lot of people still come back to Michael Keaton as Batman. People complain about Christian Bale's voice. Ben Affleck, there's not enough time because we haven't seen enough of him on screen just yet. Val Kilmer. A few people might say that. George Clooney, people just shake their head at that one. But I think we can all say that Michael Keaton, he just had something in it. I mean, and especially when I heard when it was announced that there was so much backlash, just like it was with Heath Ledger's Joker. And you could probably remember this better than I can. Because I was only about 5 years old, I think, at the time. But still, it's just anytime I see him now, because I think there's an expression that when you see a movie like a James Bond movie or a Batman movie, the first movie you see, it's almost classified as, that was my Batman. That was my James Bond. And, James, in at least Batman anyway, Michael Keaton will always forever be my Batman, given that I love 89 so much. But, yeah, good.
I always used to say, I think Keaton's the one who balanced them the best. I think Bale, the first 2/3 of Batman Begins was really good. The third act is terrible. I hate the gravelly voice. But I think he sort of was a good Bruce Wayne. I liked him in the last one as sort of the hermit Bruce Wayne. I think he played Bruce Wayne very well. I didn't like him as Batman. I think Kilmer was actually good in the suit, but not so good out of it. I think George Clooney just didn't get a chance to do anything in either role. So I think he's, particularly the one in the 89 movie where, he grabs the poker and goes after the Joker while he's still Bruce Wayne. When I get nuts scene, I think
great scene.
It really shows that the level of, he really is Batman and he's just sort of Bruce Wayne is that very thin veneer on top. And it doesn't take much to crack that veneer. And I think Keaton got that.
Yeah, he really did. And that was a great scene. Just, you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Jack Nicholson, that's still, just because of Jack Nicholson in that role, I still love him as Joker. I mean, he's classic. Okay, favorite James Bond actor?
Okay, my standard answer to this is they all put something to the role.
Yes, they do.
But the guys on James Bond Radio asked me this, and I had to think about it. Pierce Brosnan.
Very good. Okay.
As I said, I think all of them bring something to the role. They all add to the role. But what I like about Brosnan is he clearly enjoyed being James Bond. Shows on screen, particularly in GoldenEye.
Yes.
And I think he was badly served by the later movies, particularly his last one. But I think he just enjoyed the role, and he still enjoys being associated with the role. I don't know if you follow social media, but he's still is very, very active on social media and still very much interacts and talks about his time in the role and stuff like that. So, to me, he's just that epitome of the suave, sophisticated secret agent.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. I mean, if you could ever picture, I mean, at least when I picture James Bond, it's always Pierce Brosnan. When they announced Daniel Craig, I'm like, he doesn't look like James Bond. But then, and you of all people could definitely attest to this, that James Bond could be really not just, it doesn't have to be just the dark hair, British. He could be, or Irish. I mean, he could be almost anybody to a point, maybe.
To a point, yeah. I mean, if you read the original novels, even though Fleming gives a description of Bond, he actually doesn't talk about him much as a character. He's more of a plot device. And you can sort of put a lot of things, particularly the early books, you can sort of read Bond any way that you want that suits your interpretation of the story. So.
Yep. Good. Yeah, actually, I was watching GoldenEye last night. That's still one of my favorites. Like I said, I remember when I first watched that movie. I think I've talked about it on here before, but I was over at my grandparents'. I happened to turn on their TV, and I turned on this movie. I'm like, I wasn't sure what it was. My dad, I grew up with his VHS James Bond collection. I saw all these Sean Connery. There was, Goldfinger. There was Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die. They were all there, but I had no idea what they were. I'm like, oh, these are older movies. I have no interest in them. I turned on GoldenEye and I was hooked since then. Then, of course, the video game came out. Then I was all about James Bond. So, yeah.
It's a good one to start with. Yeah.
It is. Let me ask you this last question. Who do you think would win in a fight between James Bond and Batman, and why? That's a question I bet you never would have thought about, but it can be any Bond, it can be any Batman.
Yeah, no, I think Batman would, because Bruce Wayne would, because he's such a planner and he already knows, if he knows he's coming into contact with somebody, he's already done the research. He knows he knows their fighting styles. Bond's more of an impulsive fighter. Even though it's, like Hugh says, always have an exit planned and he's always looking for ways out and stuff. I think Batman would have, would basically have won the mental fight before they even contacted physically. He'd know the moves. He'd know what to do.
Right.
So, yeah, he'd be prepared.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Yeah, I think Bruce Wayne would take down James Bond.
I think so too. I mean, you look at the comparisons of these two characters. I mean, both pretty much orphans. They have, depending on which iteration of Batman and James Bond. I mean, James Bond usually has the gadgets majority of the time. Batman, he does have his gadgets to a point. But though, I guess intelligence wise, I would say it would definitely have to go to Bruce Wayne. He always seems like he's just, I don't know, he just always has a plan in a way.
Yeah.
James Bond is always thinking, how do I get out of this, when, like you said, Bruce Wayne Batman would always have a plan to begin with. So
yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about your most recent project, James Bond Lexicon. What can you tell me about it?
Well, this is the ongoing project that will never die.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
We've been working on it. I was looking at it this afternoon in prep for this call. We've been working on it for 5 years now.
Wow, okay.
The idea is an encyclopedia of all things Bond. You mentioned it's planned to be a 2-volume book that covers the movies, the comics, the novels, TV episodes, basically any officially licensed James Bond story. We're basically doing reading, annotating, putting notes together, and doing A to Z encyclopedia of characters, gadgets, vehicles, locations, everything and pretty much everything and anything. We did have a first draft done. Came in at 300,000 words. That's a lot of words.
Yes, sir.
Which we've got back and we're doing rewrites on. But in the interim, of course, new things have come along, like Spectre, a couple of new novels, the new comic book series. So we've got to go back in and add those. So we're hoping sort of middle of next year we'll be done and get it back to the publisher. So I don't know, but when we originally started it, it was like, oh, this will only take a year, and it was like, oh, it's going to take 2, maybe 3. And then we had some illness. My wife and I are co-writing it, and my wife got sick, so that sort of slowed it down. She's well on her way to recovery, but thank you. So I've stopped giving it a date. if you go on the web, there's numerous websites that have all got different publication dates for this project, and it's like, no, we've sailed past all of those, so it'll be done when it's done. My publisher is very understanding. We're also doing a Man from U.N.C.L.E. lexicon for them as well. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. I only saw the movie, but I know about the TV series. And
so that'll be the project after. But so the Bond lexicon has become something of a running joke at every convention I go to, and people ask me what project are you working on? And I say Bond lexicon, and they're like, okay, we've heard that for the last 3 years. What are you working on? Right. So it's. I was actually just working on the Dr. No entries earlier today, so nice. It is still progressing. So it's been a really fun project to do. Finding a lot of relationships and how the things that I hadn't realized were in the movie were picked up from the books, or even books, things that coming out of history that Fleming used, or any of the continuation novelists use, or how some of the more continuation novelists are picking things out of the Fleming stories that I hadn't realized until we actually started pulling all this stuff together. And then there is the downside of having to watch 65 episodes of the James Bond Jr. cartoon show.
Oh, no. You can't. The audience can't see that. I just did like a facepalm almost. But I remember that when I was growing up, and yes, I still remember the theme to that. It still pops in my head every once in a while. And okay.
But on the whole, it's been great sort of digging out all these, short stories that have been published in, like the Spectator magazine in the UK and things like that. Finding those and pulling all that stuff together. So I think we've found currently, I think the last time we did a count, we found like 18 different versions of James Bond across all these different stories.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. Let me ask this. How did this project get started? How did you get involved in this? Because you've been writing about James Bond for quite a while now too, right?
Well, actually, the first book about Bond was 2009, was the History of the Illustrated 007. Right. That actually came out of some essays that I did for Titan Comics when they were reprinting the newspaper strips. I did a couple of introductory essays for those, and that sort of became the basis for the History of James Bond in Comics Worldwide book. And then I originally started writing up some notes to do like just for my own amusement, an annotated version of 007, Casino Royale, just going through and saying, what's that reference? What's this reference? What's they talking about? And the idea grew from that. And a friend of mine has this imprint where he does books for geeks by geeks, reference books. And he'd already done one on Planet of the Apes and Back to the Future, and was looking for other titles. And I was like, well, how about James Bond one? And he was like, let's go do it. So, I like to say, it's been this big project. It's just grown and grown and grown, and it's going on and on. But we're definitely on the path towards getting it published in the next year or two.
Awesome, very good, very good. Let me ask you this: what right now? I'm sure you're caught up on all the James Bonds, especially with Spectre. It's actually been almost a year now since it's come out. What'd you think about that movie? Well, I'm bringing it up. Let me stop you right there before we go on. I haven't watched it fully, and I'm saving it because I want to do a full review on it, because I want to do like one of those 1 year reviews, because I want to see how it holds up, because I did see it twice in theaters because my expectations were this high given Skyfall, and then when I went and saw it, I was like, okay, well, so what did you think?
I'll preface it by saying I actually dislike Skyfall too. I actually think Craig's movies have gone down. Okay. Casino Royale was brilliant, and I think they've just incrementally got worse. I think I didn't like Spectre at all. Okay. Without spoiling it, you've seen it, but
it's okay.
I knew what they were trying to do. There were some nice callbacks in there. There were some nice references in there. But the whole Oberhauer's Blofeld thing was pointless. And the way they actually tried to retroactively cram in the continuity of the previous 3 movies was ridiculous. Yeah. I think Christoph Waltz phoned it in. I think it was a terrible performance.
He's actually even said that in an interview in the last week or so. He was saying, I'm kind of disappointed with myself about it. Just saying that, it could have been better. And, I hope I get a chance to do it again, because I'd like to do better. But
I mean, just from a writer's point of view, for me, the biggest thing that is when they called it, when they announced the name of the movie was going to be Spectre. It's like, why don't you call it something else and have the reveal that it's Spectre behind all this stuff becomes the reveal of the movie.
Exactly.
Don't put it in the title. You know?
Yeah.
And then, of course, as soon as he said it was Spectre and it's not going to be Blofeld, we all knew it was a lie.
Yeah, that was the worst kept secret ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the whole thing of it made James Bond basically the most important person in the world because Blofeld had done all this big stuff just to get it.
Yeah.
Foster brother that he didn't like. There was no big real threat. I mean, I sort of enjoyed it up until the moment they got to the volcano crater, meteor crater. You know, when they got off the train, from that point on, it lost me completely. It just farcical. And I'll get off that soapbox now because we've only got an hour. So
yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: what is your take on the James Bond franchise in regards to, you know, especially with Spectre, it was saying it was too formulaic, I guess you could say. It's just like, okay, well, Bond, you know, is just, you know, he's going to drink his martini, he's going to get the girl, he's going to, you know, drive an Aston Martin, there's going to be some action sequences, and, you know, he'll save the day. So, I mean, and some people, and the critics were really hard on that. I mean, even without Spectre, just, you know, they're just saying, oh, it's just, okay, you know, it shouldn't be limited to just the white male actor, you know, it should be a different, you know, race or maybe even an actress, possibly. Like, I know that was a whole bunch of questions, but just your thoughts with that.
James Bond has got to be he's a British secret agent. If you want to do a female, female spy movie, go do a female spy movie. It's not James Bond. You know, I have a problem if it's not the core of the character. Don't change it just for the sake of changing it. Go create another character.
Right.
You know, write your own characters, build your own franchise. So, you know, I sort of have a little problem with some of the stuff that's going on. This could make me sound like a real old grouch, but going on in some of the comic books now, where they're, putting a girl in the Iron Man suit. Okay, cool. If it serves a story, but why not create a new female superhero?
Right.
Okay. Which they all do a spin like they've done with Ms. Marvel, and the new Ms. Marvel, apart from the name, has no relation to the other one, but he's a brand new character and he's done exceptionally well. So this force fitting of stuff in, if it doesn't serve the character and it doesn't serve the story, I don't see the point of it. And, James Bond is a British Secret Service agent. There have been Jane Bond comic strips and Jane Bond pastiche type stuff. There's been Shirley Holmes Policewoman, and there's an issue of Batman with a story called Shirley Holmes Policewoman. Those sort of pastiches exist, but doing it to the main franchise, I think, just destroys the core of who that character is, and it's not that character anymore. So. I've got no problem with an Irishman playing him, or a Scotsman playing him, or
Australian.
A Welshman or an Australian playing him. As long as I probably wouldn't have a problem with an American playing it, as long as they can play the character.
Right.
Who the character is. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I always get worried when they're, especially at a time we're in right now, when they're getting ready to announce possibly a new James Bond. I'm like, please don't go the American route. And I'm American, and I don't want an American James Bond. If they wanted, they have an American James Bond. They have the Mission Impossible movies. They have the Jason Bourne movies, and leave it at that. That's fine, because it's competition and it's their own type of film. James Bond, in my mind, is, like you said, a British secret agent. I'm not worried about the race of him at all. If they want to have blonde hair or brunette, that's fine. But it's got to be a guy, and I don't want that to sound sexist at the same time. But that's just, that's how the Ian Fleming novels are.
Yeah. No, I'd have no problem with a black actor playing James Bond, a black British actor playing James Bond. There's some really good ones. His names have been thrown out there. There's already been a few audiobooks where the lead voice actor's been black, who's played the James Bond part, and it comes over very well. I got no problem with that whatsoever. But the gender switch, it wouldn't. Jane Bond. If you want to go do a Jane Bond movie, call her something else. Do your Jane Bond movie. Go back to your point about the formula. The formula was set by Goldfinger and has been there ever since. So that was the third movie. They've done 20 odd movies. If you did it and didn't do the formula, people would say it's not a Bond movie.
Right.
And when the formula's done well, it really well, you've got Goldfinger is a great movie. Goldeneye is a great movie. Live and Let Die. There's a lot of really good Bond movies that follow that formula pretty strictly. So I don't have a problem with the formula. There is a clip on YouTube of basically somebody editing all the Bond movies together by formula. And you can basically almost minute for minute see when the Moneypenny scene happens and the end scene happens. And, the visit to Q Branch happens. It's almost the same minute in each movie. But that's what makes it, it's that comfort level, I guess. It's the familiarity of the structure, the characters, and the formula overlaid with the new exotic locations, the new villains, the gadgets. The gadgets went too far, but also and the mission and all that sort of stuff coming together. The one thing I really do miss from the formula is Bond doing his goddamn job, which he is not done at all in a Daniel Craig movie. No. I would love the next one to open with him walking in M's office in uniform, throw his naval cap on the hat stand, walking in, and being given a folder and said, "Go take this guy out. He's a menace. You've got to save the world in 8 hours. Go get it done." And that's it. I don't want to know any more about his backstory. I want him to go and actually do his job.
Trying to think the last time we really had something like that. I mean, even if you want to look at Casino Royale, I mean, with Lashif, they wanted to bring him in for questioning. And going, GoldenEye, I mean, they wanted to get the GoldenEye satellite. But I mean, that's tough. I mean, Tomorrow Never Dies was more like a Spy Who Loved Me in a way. And we all know that the rest of the Craig movies were revenge movies. So, I mean,
I think The World Is Not Enough is probably the last one where it was, M briefs him and says,
Renard.
Go find, no, sorry, I was thinking Tomorrow Never Dies. Go find out about
L.A. Carver
and why he's manipulating the,
right.
We knew about this. It was in his paper before we knew about it. Go find out. And that's probably the last one where he's actually just sent on a mission.
Sometimes the creativity, they have the right idea. Maybe how they execute it, I guess, in a way, though. I mean, and it sounds easy for a fan to say that. Oh, yeah, just write it this way. And I mean, there's probably so much fan fiction out there and stuff. But I mean, this brings me to another question. Do you think the movie should stick closer to the original Ian Fleming novels? I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
I think all the best ones are ones. GoldenEye probably been the exception, but I think all the best ones are the ones that pull from Fleming. From Russia with Love, even Dr. No, less so, but from Russia with Love, I think is definitely up there in the top. Majesty Service, you've got to look at that. Even For Your Eyes Only actually pulls from two of the short stories. There's a lot of Fleming material in there, in that as well. I think a lot of the best ones are really the ones that pull or use a lot of the Fleming short stories. License to Kill pulls a lot from a couple of the Fleming short stories. So I think that the most powerful ones are the ones when they pull from Fleming. Even little bits of Octopussy are actually pulled from Fleming material. I think when they go back in, for my mind, the great unfilmed Fleming novel is Moonraker.
Okay.
Which is nothing other than the title has no resemblance to the movie. So I think that's a Fleming novel that they could go back and film with a different title, and I think they could make a really great Bond movie by using the original Moonraker story, or even as it's now a new continuity, just do it as it is and a different title, but still have Drax in there and stuff like that. They could make a. So if you've not read that novel, I highly recommend it.
Yes. You would think for me being a fan, I would have read all the novels by now. And the truth is that by the time I'm out of work and reading the computer screen, I'm just like, I don't feel like reading right now. That's why it's it's such an easy go-to for me to say, oh, I'm just going to turn on the movie. But, I do want to read all the books. I truly do. Same even with like Batman, which we'll talk about in a moment. Just want to, just like we said before we even, really started the show with that there's so much backstory to these characters. There's so many different interpretations of the character. going back with Ian Fleming, like you said, the novels will always be there. I remember even the writers even saying, like, when they had Casino Royale right before they started, it's like the novel was there. I mean, they had that fluff film, if you want to call it, when they did.
I mean, Casino Royale is another great one that really, respects and uses the Fleming source material.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and like I said, worst case, always go back to the books, right? So, Yep. Any thoughts on like the direction that the next set of films should go in? I mean, let's just say Daniel Craig doesn't come back. Let's say we get a new Bond, and any thoughts on that?
Well, personally, I think he'll be back for at least one more.
I'm thinking that too.
125. Like I said, I'd actually just like them to go back to the tradition of him doing his job and actually going out there and taking down world class villains. Maybe I like some of the gadgets, but not too many gadgets. But I'd like to, again, I think they went over the top in the last movie, in Spectre. But I like the form. Like I said earlier, I like the formula. Maybe it's just because I'm an old guy, but I'd like to see. I'd like to see them actually return a bit more to that sort of standard. The late Connery type. So some of the good Roger Moore ones, or even like I said, Goldeneye. I think Goldeneye is a really good template to use.
It really is. Like I said, watching that last night, and it had all the classic elements of James Bond, but it still revived the franchise since it was the amount of the hiatus. It was from 89 to 95. Anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, and just they had plenty of time to come up with that story, but how they, like I said, how they executed it, it's just, we need to bring James Bond back after the Cold War. How are we going to do it? We're going to create we have a new villain in here, and we put a great spin on that, which Alec Trevelyan 006 is one of the best villains. He truly is. That movie, it ages so well, I think. Just everything about it. They brought back the Aston Martin in a great way. I think the only thing I didn't like about that is probably the score to that. And I'm really picky about the scores to the movies. And I think a lot of fans can agree that the GoldenEye score could have been, aside from the tank chase in there, could have been done all over again.
Probably agree about the score, but not about the theme song.
Oh yeah, I like the Tina Turner theme. Not my favorite, but I do like it. It's
just that opening few bars. Again, it catches me. And the lead into Aston Martin.
Seeing that Aston Martin on there, it gets me every time. It really does. Yeah. I'm like a little kid sometimes. Okay, so I mentioned to you earlier today. Before we hop into Global James Bond Day, I don't want to hold you too long, but I did want to mention that some news broke today. Ben Affleck, and this is where I wish I had a timpani. Ben Affleck has announced that his standalone Batman film will be entitled The Batman. The Batman. How do you like that? What do you think about that?
I actually like that because to me he's always been the Batman. That's actually one of the lines I do like about Batman Returns. When he and Michelle Pfeiffer are doing that. It's Batman, the Batman. I've always liked the use of the definite article for Batman. So. I think that's good. I will say the only bit of Affleck of Batman I've seen was Suicide Squad. I have not watched Batman vs Superman. I have no interest in that movie. I've just seen that little bit in Suicide Squad. I'm still on the fence about the DC movies, whether I'll actually even go see it. But,
now that you mentioned it, what did you think of Suicide Squad?
It was a mess.
It was. Yes, it was. It was. It felt like it was at least two different movies, maybe even three, actually. Yeah. If
you go to revolutionsf.com, my movie review is up on.
Okay. Be sure to check it out.
I do movie reviews for that site. So.
Okay. Great. I like, when they announced Ben Affleck as Batman, I'm like, okay, it's almost an obvious choice in a way because he has that Bruce Wayne persona, just everything, just how you see him when he's doing his interviews, his personality. And I'm like, okay, but seeing him in the Batsuit when we finally saw it in the teaser trailer, I'm like, okay, I have to get used to this because I've been so hooked on Christian Bale's Batman. I mean, like I said, not my favorite Batman interpretation, but it's just been around so long that now you have to sell us on a brand new Batman. and kind of just forget about the Nolan trilogy, which is it was only a couple years after the fact. So
exactly, yeah.
But I mean, I have to say, when I saw Batman v Superman, I won't do a whole review here, but I will say that it was a letdown. I was very let down, as a matter of fact, because I don't know if you've seen Man of Steel. I'm going to guess that you have.
Yes, I had. Yeah, I saw Man of Steel. Yeah.
I personally, I love Man of Steel. I really love Man of Steel. And I wasn't even a Superman fan before that. And something about that movie I just really love. I love, just seeing how he became Superman, seeing just, it's like you have this real character, and I can, how I can relate to Superman. I know this is a Batman versus James Bond show. But just, comes from a different planet, and he was adopted. Quick story, I am actually adopted, and I come from a different country. And so I can actually, in a way, I feel like I can relate to that, because I've never been back to my home country of Chile. I was born in Santiago, Chile, actually. So, but it just, so I can relate to that. But meanwhile, going back to Batman here, getting off my soapbox. I'm excited about just seeing a Batman standalone film. The whole shared universes, I have to say, and Marvel movies are great. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, they have some good movies. I don't like the DC universe following that. I don't think they have to. I think they're trying to just follow something that they don't need to. They have all this great material. They have all these characters. Do a separate Batman film, do a separate Superman, do a separate Wonder Woman, and then bring them together if you want. But it's creating more of a problem. It really is. And they feel like they have to catch up. And for what? I mean, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. They've got these great iconic characters. I wish they would respect those characters and the backgrounds of those characters.
Yeah.
I don't think they don't go do something, again, like we were talking about earlier in terms of messing with the franchise. Go do something of your own. You've got this great base to go do something. Go chasing Marvel. But that's how a lot of businesses work. Those guys are successful, we should go do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the Wonder Woman movie.
Me too.
I will probably go see the Ben Affleck. The little bit of him I saw of him in Suicide Squad, I thought it worked well. I'm interested to see where he takes it. I assume at some point when I find it in the $5 bin at Target, I'll probably pick up that one.
Yeah, if you do watch a cut, I always tell this to everybody because, like I said, I saw it in theaters because I saw it opening night, and then I was let down, and then I watched the ultimate cut. I bought it as soon as it was available on iTunes, and the story does flow better. And that extra amount of time does make a difference. I'm not saying it's perfect. It is better, though. And it's just, like I said, there's so many different movies combined into one. And that's its problem. It's jumbled together.
It never really gets. It's just a series of scenes rather than a story. Is what I've heard.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. But there are good moments. There are some redeeming qualities about it. Anyway.
Okay.
So, okay. While I still have you on here, I did want your take on this. It is, as I mentioned, Global James Bond Week, or Global James Bond Day, is Wednesday, October 5th, a couple days before we're recording this. It goes without saying that, 007, as we've been talking, he's the man, the legend. Nobody does it better than Bond. And I did want to I wanted your input, especially, some of your favorite moments from the James Bond movie history. I know there's a long list, but.
Okay. Again, my absolute favorite moment, one I probably watched more than anything else, is the Little Nelly helicopter fight scene over the volcano from You Only Live Twice. A little backstory. When I was at college, at high school, we started a film club, and the only movie that we could get to rent on a 35mm projector that we had was a print of You Only Live Twice.
Really?
So for the first 3 months of our movie club, we showed You Only Live Twice every Friday night in the school.
Oh, wow.
So I saw that movie a lot. And after a while, I began to realize that things happen in that movie just because it's a James Bond movie. They don't make any sense for the plot. And the Little Nelly fight scene is one of them. If they hadn't come out and fired at Little Nelly, one would have had no idea that Spectre were in that volcano.
Right.
He'd have just flown away, and they would never have known anything about it. So it makes no sense from a plot point of view. But I just love that whole Little Nelly sequence. I started my career in the aerospace business, and I actually got to sort of see Little Nelly and see it fly things. And then when we were at the Bond in Motion thing in London a couple of years ago, Little Nelly was there, and they were showing that scene on the screen behind it, and I just stood there watching it over and over again, and my wife's like, come on, there's 35 other vehicles in here. You just stood there looking at this thing you've already watched 1,000 times. But yeah, that's I don't know what it is about just that sequence, but that's the one sequence in all the Bond movies that I keep going back to. I just love it.
Yeah.
So that's, and I'm actually sat here. There's a little Nelly model sat right just off camera here. So
really, okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yep. Let's see.
There we go.
Oh, there it is. Okay, that looks great. I know everybody can't see it, but he has a little handheld little Nelly. That okay. Yep. Oh, so it doesn't make me feel so bad when I have like my Batman action figure here, or I have my I have my James Bond foam Walther and stuff like that I might be preparing to use for. I'm going to Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, as a matter of fact, this Thursday. Okay. So getting ready for that.
We're not going this year, but have fun. It's a great show.
Yes, it is very much. And as you can tell, I dress up in my costume over there. So
okay, very
cool. I think I'm trying to think off one of my favorite moments from a James Bond movie, and I will definitely, I'll go with the Casino Royale one. When he's trying on the tuxedo. I was thinking about this the other day. When he tries on that tuxedo, and the whole movie has so many classic Bond moments in there, but it's when Vesper Lynn is telling him there's dinner jackets and then there's dinner jackets. This is the latter. And he tries it on. He's checking himself out in the mirror. You cue the David Arnold music. It's just a nice, light James Bond theme in there. And she's smiling in the back, and he's just fixing his bow tie. And it's just like, okay, there's James Bond. You sold me on that.
Yeah. I'd agree with you. I think that is the moment that Daniel Craig becomes James Bond, is when he puts on that tuxedo.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think you kind of said it about vehicle. You said Little Nelly. I think, what would be your favorite James Bond car? There's so many.
There's so many. Okay, I don't know. I'm actually a member of the Ian Fleming Foundation.
Okay.
We're a charity. We actually rescue and restore James Bond movie vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, half the vehicles in the James Bond in Motion exhibit in London are actually Ian Fleming Foundation vehicles.
Oh, wow.
We own. And we actually have a warehouse up in Chicago, just outside Chicago, a secret location outside Chicago, where we go twice a year to basically work and restore and work on these James Bond vehicles. So I'm lucky I've actually got to play around with a lot of the real ones.
Wow, lucky.
Now, we don't have a DB5, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But actually, one of the first vehicles I worked on there was the Aston Martin from The Living Daylights, the Timothy Dalton one, the one that does the ski jump.
Yes, the ski car. Yes, that is a very good one.
So that's a personal favourite of mine, because that was the first Bond vehicle I actually got to get my hands in a wrench on and actually work on. So that's a particular favourite of mine for that. But we got some great vehicles up there from a lot of the Bond movies, and a few of the props too, as well. So some of the models we have: Goldfinger's jet, the Vulcan bomber from Thunderball, a whole bunch of stuff. So
I need to make it over there, I think, sometime. Yeah, I'm excited. I went to the Spy Museum, I guess, like about 3 years ago, and they had one of the Aston Martin DB5s there, and it all of a sudden they just do like a little demonstration of like showing how the guns pop out and the license plate revolves, and I'm just stopping and I'm just like, like that. I'm just in shock. I'm like I said, a little kid in a candy store. I just love that kind of stuff. Yeah. So yeah.
I've never made it there yet. I need to make a trip there. I hear it's very good.
It's very good. Actually, I know you probably can't see it, but I have a James Bond. I have a James Bond poster over there of all the James Bond posters. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And well, of course, it's not up to date because it stopped at Quantum of Solace. I need to update that. Let's talk real quick about James Bond gadgets. Aside from Little Nelly, do you have another gadget that you could think of that would be one of your favorites?
That is a really good question. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
Okay. Can be anything.
Again, personal story. It's not so much a gadget, but I like it, again, because it's personal. Q's laptop that plugs into the Cubo.
Okay.
I actually ended up restoring that prop. We found that prop, and it was in terrible condition. So I lived with that for 6 months, basically restoring, taking it back to the basic things, and actually sourcing keyboards from Hong Kong and rebuilding the prop. So that's not a gadget; it's a prop, but I have a very special.
Still, that's really cool. Yeah,
so I lived in my house for like a year while I worked on it, But in terms of gadgets, you know what? I don't think I do. I just like them. I just like to see, them used. Nothing springs to mind, surprisingly.
Yeah, I will say this. When it comes to gadgets, I mean, we kind of talked about this already, but some of them have gone a little overboard, I think, in a way. They're too, well, we'll just say, for the sake of argument, the Die Another Day Aston Martin invisible car might have been stretching it.
But that's another movie where you can pinpoint the moment it fell off the cliff, it jumped the shark.
Exactly.
For me, it was when Aston Martin turned up,
Yeah, even the Thunderball Jet Pack. I mean, it does exist. It really does. Yeah, I mean, but something like that, I guess. I mean, at the time when that came out, I can only imagine what was going through everybody's mind. It's like there's no way. But it's like, yeah, it really did exist.
Well, the beginning of that, the classic iconic jet pack. How the hell did he manage to get that on and get the helmet on? And those things only fly for like 20 seconds anyway.
Right.
So, but that looks really cool, but completely useless. So, exactly. A bit like that.
Yeah. I will probably say just, I'm going to go with one of the watches. I love the Omega watches that they had in the, especially from the Pierce Brosnan ones. I liked his watch laser that he had in there. I love that. And just even when from Dr. No, I mean, people might forget it at night kind of as a gadget, but I say the Walther PPK is a gadget. Yeah. When Bernard Lee made him use that over the Beretta, I was like, this is what makes it. And when I see Bond using something else other than the Walther PPK, he's used the other guns in there, but I'm like, you have to have the Walther PPK. It's just something about Bond. I don't know. I mean, that's just one of my things, I guess, in a way. But
I mean, it needs to be at least a Walther, whether it's a P99 or whatever, but it needs to be a Walther. Yeah.
It does, yeah, it does. Absolutely. All right, a couple more things here. You're good on time still, right?
Fine, got as much time as you need.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to hold you up too long. Your favorite score song, what do you have one?
Score is probably Majesty's. Song, probably Live and Let Die.
Good one.
Because I'm also, as well as Bond and Batman.
You wrote about the Beatles. Yep, I saw.
They always say that the 60s pop culture was defined by the three Bs, the Beatles, Batman, and Bond.
Yes.
And I've written about all three, so I'm a huge Beatles fan, always have been. Went to college in Liverpool, that's what sort of sparked me writing a book about them. Big Paul McCartney fan. But I also just think it's a really great rocking, it was really the first rock.
It was.
Theme, that they used, and I think it's just a great rock track, and I really love it. It's one of those ones that comes on in the car and it immediately, the dial immediately gets turned to 11, and it's, I think it's just a great one.
Yeah. I definitely like listening to it when it pops up on my phone. I have like a whole bunch of Bond scores, and there's one, it's the Best of Bond, James Bond. It has all the main songs on the title songs on there by the original artist on there. And that's definitely one that, the Duran Duran of You to a Kill, that's probably one of my favorites also.
That's a good one too, yeah.
Yeah. And it's got that rock pop, but it's got that John Barry sound to it. I think here's a good one. It's Carly Simon, Nobody Does It Better. One of the best sayings from in Bond anyway, nobody does it better, but you'll like this. I was able to talk my wife into letting that be one of our first dance songs at the wedding.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yes. That's nice. So, it was only on for about a minute, then we broke into a couple other songs, but it was the first slow dance song. And I don't want to say I made her listen to James Bond songs, because she's still trying to get into the movies. She loves Casino Royale. Just because of that love story, but everything else, she's like, I'm not so much into this. But, she also did allow us to, I say allow because, happy wife, happy life. She, when we were first introduced, as a married couple to our guest at the reception, we came out to the James Bond theme out there. Oh, so now they say, I now pronounce you Mr. and Mrs. Brian Thomas, or I now, for the first time in public, whatever it is. And then we came out to the James Bond theme, and here I am, I'm wearing my tux, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready for everything. Yeah. I'm ready to take on the world. I'm ready to take on Spectre. Heck yeah. So yeah, that would probably be one of my favorites. Under Majesty's Secret Service, definitely, Let's see. Tomorrow Never Dies. I think that is an underrated score. David Arnold took over for the first time with that, and he definitely brought some of the classic John Barry elements. He brought in some of his new sound to it, but it definitely was well adapted in there, and he definitely did honor Barry in that.
Yeah, I actually do like the David Arnold stuff. I mean, John Barry's obviously the classic, but I do actually like a lot of the David Arnold scores. Mm-hmm. See, one of the big things that disappointed me about Spectre, basically, was it was just a rehash of the score from Skyfall.
It really was.
Skyfall score is the first score even though I didn't really like the movie, I did like the score, and it's one of the first Bond scores I bought the album for a long time. The Spectre was just, I mean, there was nothing in Spectre really that made it stand out as a separate score, and it really disappointed.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that contributed to my dislike of the movie.
Yeah.
But actually, I think the Skyfall score was better than the movie. So I think that's a pretty good score. And I like a lot of the David Arnold stuff too. Mm-hmm. And I liked the reworking of the Bond theme that they did around the time of the Pierce Brosnan movies as well. I mean, it was a good reworking of the Bond theme. The other one I actually really like is there's the Thunderball theme as well.
Yeah.
And score-wise, probably because I just heard it so many goddamn times, You Only Live Twice is instantly recognizable score to me.
Very much.
It only takes a bar or something, and that scene's in my head. But I say that might be just because I saw the movie so many times. But
yeah, there's actually there's the scene in You Only Live Twice here. Going off track here, but we're talking about music. It's when Bond is in Japan and he's investigating the tanker, and he has, I always forget the Bond girl's name, and has her run off, and he goes to the top of the building.
Single pan shot.
I love that shot, and you throw in the music, and it's such a great rendition of You Only Live Twice instrumental version, and I don't know why I don't have it on my phone at all. But that is a great theme there.
That was like the world's longest single pan shot for decades or something.
Mm-hmm.
They say the opening one in Spectre was like longer.
Yeah.
I still think the You Only Live Twice one is a lot more effective. Particularly with that score behind it. It's very cool.
It really was. Absolutely. Yep. Well, yeah, we can talk about this. Favorite Bond girl? Do you have a favorite Bond girl?
I'm actually
Bond girls.
I'm going back to GoldenEye again. Actually, Natalia Simonova.
Good choice.
I think because she's pretty much, I mean, she's not the typical Bond. There is no such thing as a typical Bond girl. I actually hate that phrase when people talk about typical Bond girl.
No.
I don't think there is one. She's on a par. She gives, at least verbally, as good as she gets with Bond, and she has skills that Bond doesn't. And she gives him a hard time when he needs to, talk to.
Boys with toys.
Boys with toys, yes. And is all you do, kill, and all the conversation on the beach about, he was your friend and now you're going to kill him. Is that how you, treat things and how you approach things? I just think she was a great character. And unfortunately, probably the computer bit is the one bit of GoldenEye that doesn't carry so well. It does date fairly quickly, but within the context of its time, it works. But I think she's a really good character. The only thing is we never actually get to see her in in a casino with a nice counter or anything like that. She's my favorite Bond girl.
That's a good choice. She's on my list. That and I would say Ava Green. Something about the Vesper Lynd character, and I still come back to her as one of my favorite Bond girls. And I mean, she is a gorgeous woman. Don't tell my wife that. No, she never listens. It's okay. She knows it anyway. No, but just how just the back and forth between the chemistry she had with Daniel Craig. I have no idea just how she, like you said, just kind of like Natalia Simonova, she was able to give it right back to Bond. She's like, there's not enough room for you and your ego in this elevator.
The conversation on the train between the two of them when they're sizing each other up, I think is an absolute classic scene. Yes.
It is very much. And they try to recreate it in Spectre. Didn't work.
Exactly. Again, I think that one of the other things with Spectre is there was actually zero chemistry between Daniel Craig and Lea Seydoux.
Yeah.
That relationship just did not ring true at all for me.
Too forced. But I did have a chance to actually meet 2 Bond girls 2 weeks ago, as a matter of fact. You were like this Britt Eklund. I got a chance to meet Miss Britt Eklund. They were over, and because you're from Maryland, you're familiar with Hunt Valley. They were actually, it was her and, it was Luciana Polizzi. From Thunderball, yes, and they are so nice, and here I am, and I do the podcast, and I probably could have asked them so many questions, but I'm just like, hi, it's nice to meet you, and I didn't know what to say because I've never met Bond girls before, and and I remember seeing this video, and it was saying Bond girls are forever, and a lot of them, they said they could do so many different acting roles, they could probably even win an Oscar for it, but they will always be known as Bond girls, and they still love it. So, and they still get all the fan mail. So, it's quite an honor to be, Bond girl.
It is, yeah. My wife and I were lucky to spend a weekend and have dinner with Maud Adams and Lana Woods about a year or so ago. And it was a really fantastic time. 2 wonderful ladies, very entertaining, some great stories. But they love being Bond girls, right?
Yep, and it's not a sexist thing at all. It's just you're a Bond girl. It's an honor, I think, in a way. So.
Actually, one of my wife's favourite photographs is a picture of her stood between Maud Adams and Lana Wood. So just taken on one of the evenings. Yeah, she shows all her friends that, let's meet with the other Bond girls.
Nice. Let's see. Favorite Bond villain? Do you have a favorite Bond villain?
Ooh.
You're not going to go with it. I think you're going to go with somebody I wouldn't expect.
That's a good one. God. You have got me thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
I like Alec Trevelyan. I like the whole twist side of that. Mm-hmm. I actually think, even though I really, really dislike the movie, it's probably close to the bottom of my list of favorite Bond movies. But I actually think Hugo Drax before they get into space. But he's just so cold and calculating. Mm-hmm. I actually think that sort of understated way that Drax is played. Mm-hmm. I think Drax is probably one of my favorite ones from the movie series. Even though I actually detest the movie, I think he plays the part very well, and it's written very well. And just he could buy everybody over 3 times over and not really care. And, go or whatever. And just a casual cruelness, particularly when he fires the girl and sets the Doberman, and she's running.
Oh, so cold. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a hard scene to watch too, because I'm a dog lover. I'm like, no, don't do that.
The way it's done is just with such casual indifference. It just adds a level of cruelty to him. But
yeah. I think it's easy for me to say Goldfinger. I still like Goldfinger. The character of Blofeld, I think the Donald Pleasance Blofeld is still one of my favorites. And even though you don't get to see a lot of him on screen, and You Only Live Twice isn't my favorite Sean Connery James Bond movie, I did like the interaction that those two had on screen. I really, really do. I would probably say 006 Alex Trevelyan. I think he'd probably be one of my favorites. Yeah.
The Telly Savalas, I think Blofeld too is, he brings a sense of sensuality into the role that none of the others did, and a sense of menace. Yeah. Of course, the big thing with that movie being set after You Only Live Twice is how come the two of them didn't recognize each other, even though they were different. I think of the Blofelds, Donald Pleasance is really the iconic one. And particularly since he was not the original person cast. I mean, he was like a last minute replacement.
Right.
And he just picked up the nuance to give that level of evil to the character. I think was great. But you really got me thinking about that one. And the more I think about it, I think it is Drax. Yeah.
Okay, good choice. Yeah, no, it's I can go back and watch Moonraker. I watch it because I can enjoy it. And that's like with some of the James Bond movies, like say Diamonds Are Forever. Definitely not, probably one of my least favorite, but I can still go back and watch it and still take something from it that I enjoy, I think.
Yeah, I will say, my wife and I usually around this time of year, usually October, November, we start a rewatch, and we rewatch all the Bond movies.
Yeah.
And Moonraker's the one where we always go, we're going to put it on or not? And it's like, oh, okay, we'll put it on. Mm-hmm. But you're right. even the bad ones, the ones towards the bottom of my list, is I'll pick every time we rewatch them. I'll pick up something that I haven't seen before or appreciate something from it because of these sort of conversations I've had with other Bond fans in the intervening 12 months or whatever. It's like, I never actually realised that until so and so said it.
Right.
You sort of just pick out a different nuance of it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so as we wrap things up here, they were saying there's news saying that Daniel Craig remains still the absolutely first choice for James Bond. I'm curious, and I don't know if you are about to see if he will come back. You seem to think that he might. Do you know something I don't know?
No. I mean, when he was originally signed, it was for 5 movies. I think the original contract was 5 movies. A lot of the posturing that's been going on is pretty much history repeating itself with the other ones. Roger Moore did the whole, I'm never going to do one of these again. Sean Connery did the I'm never going to do one of these again.
And Sean Connery came back twice, once unofficially.
Right, And then Roger Moore did, I'm only going to do 4, I'm going to do 5. And then he was on a movie-by-movie deal, a lot of it stinks of, typical negotiating, salary negotiation contracts. I think the whole $150 million to do 2 movies thing is ridiculous because that just doesn't work out financially. If you pay your leading man $75 million, you have no budget left to do anything.
Exactly.
Other than, have him sit on a stool and read the script, and that's about it. I think, he was contracted for 5. I think he'll do 5. What I'm hoping is that they won't pick up from Spectre. I'm hoping that they won't do Blofeld and Lea Seydoux and all that. Like I said, I hope they just, it's him walking in his naval uniform, beginning the job and going doing it.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen. But yeah, I think he'll do at least one more and then they'll probably go find somebody else. And, a lot of the names that have been bandied around, if you think about the fact that we're now on like a 3-year gap between movies, talking another 6 years, so the names that have been bandied around, I think are too old because in another 6 years, they'll be, too old for the part, or they're already too well known. I mean, Eon have never pulled somebody who is already a star. Tom Hiddleston's name keeps coming up, but he's already a leading man. Same with a lot of the others that you've seen bandied around names. I think that the names get picked up because people already know them, and that's not how Eon Productions has traditionally worked. Every Bond has been. There may be a TV actor like Pierce Brosnan was, or a well-known stage actor like Timothy Dalton, but they're not well-known movie people, movie stars. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's somebody that in 6 years' time that we haven't even thought of yet.
I like that better, and the same goes for Batman too. And that's why I guess I was kind of disappointed with, say, Ben Affleck, because I was like, that's an A-lister, and I mean, yeah, he does fit the look of Batman, Bruce Wayne, but the same for James Bond. I want an unknown name, and I want somebody younger and somebody that I wouldn't expect. And then, you know what, if the fans, like especially the diehard fans that are against it, and then they prove them wrong, kind of how like Daniel Craig did with his first run around, then great. It shuts them up. So.
Yeah, I must admit that was the problem I had with the post-credit scene on Suicide Squad with him and Amanda Waller. In fact, it didn't actually make sense story-wise. Was I wasn't looking at Bruce Wayne, I was looking at Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Having somebody well-known in that part. Again, that was part of it. I know George Clooney was only a TV guy at the time. Only a TV guy. He was the biggest TV star on the planet at the time. But it was George Clooney on screen. It wasn't, Michael Keaton wasn't well-known enough. You'd only know a couple of movies.
Mr. Mom and Beetlejuice, I believe it was.
That was it. Yeah. So you could sort of see him as Bruce Wayne or Batman, but that's one of the problems I have with Ben. And Ben Affleck can be a great actor. The right part, he's done some great stuff. One where he actually played George Reeves, the first TV Superman at Hollywoodland. Brilliant acting, brilliant movie. If you haven't seen it, again, highly recommend it. Yeah. But he's got to the point now where it's difficult to not see Ben Affleck when he's on screen, as opposed to what the character is playing. So,
right. Yep. Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's move into birthdays here. A lot of big birthdays happening this week, Alan. One, and I think she was a Bond girl a little too late. Miss Monica Bellucci celebrated her birthday on September 30th. She played Lucia Sciarra in Spectre. I think I remember hearing in an interview that Pierce Brosnan wanted to have her in a one of his James Bond movies, but it never worked out.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think she was way underused in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
The way they sort of used her to deliver illogical. How she as that character knew all that stuff that was going on about the Spectre meeting didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But they used her. There was the lingerie shot on the bed, and that's it. She was never mentioned again. It was never followed up. They never followed up its lighter reference. It would have only taken a scene or something later in the movie to with her and Felix in a bar on the beach or something to just, I don't know, but tragic misfit. For the 10 minutes of screen time, I think she was way better than the other girl in the movie. So tragic misuse of a great talent, beautiful woman and a great talent.
Oh, and she's still getting better with age. I mean, I think I follow some of, actually I think I do follow her Instagram account, and the pictures that are on there, I'm like, wow. Like you said, she fell in, unfortunately, to that second Bond girl category where she's there, but she gets very limited screen time. And there's always that one. And unfortunately, it was her. Like you said, maybe she could have been the main Bond girl, but at least we got to see her as a Bond girl in this lifetime. So that was good. Okay. Marion Cotillard, she celebrated a birthday also on September 30th. She played, spoiler alert, Talia al Ghul in The Dark Knight Rises. Did you get a chance to see that Batman movie?
Yes, I did. I did watch that one. Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts on that or her role in there?
I thought it was just too long.
Yeah.
And too puzzled. I have a problem where basically these sort of movies just end up with two guys thumping each other. Particularly when they're meant to be intelligent heroes who think their way through things like Bruce Wayne's meant to be. It was too much mano macho stuff, and it was too long. For Anne Hathaway, was Anne Hathaway as Catwoman?
Yep.
She was great. Again, slightly misused. But that was a movie that could have done with some serious editing, I thought.
Absolutely, yeah. I like the actress Marion Cotillard. I loved her Inception, and so when I heard that she was announced for The Dark Knight Rises, I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to see what she's going to play. And the spoilers came out. I'm like, well, I'm still interested to see what this is going to be, and it didn't pan out the way I'd wanted it to. But I can still go back and watch the movie and enjoy it. And I still see the flaws, but like I said, I can still move past that. I guess I'm weird like that, where I can watch those kind of movies. Pinewood Studio.
My bad superhero movie collection. I have.
What's that?
I have a collection of deliberately bad superhero movies. I mean, I actually own.
Do tell.
The David Hasselhoff Nick Fury movie.
Oh, you have that? Oh my god.
The Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie.
Mm-hmm.
The 1980s Captain America with the ears on the helmet. I even have Daredevil and Elektra, talking about Affleck.
Yeah.
I have a thing for bad superhero movies. So I totally get you that I can sit and watch that and still get something out of it.
Yes.
I actually get from those. So.
Some of them I can watch. I don't know. Maybe I'm lazy. Maybe it's just because it happens to be on Netflix or on cable TV. And I guess I have a tradition of watching Sunday movies, and whatever's on, if it ends up being one of those cheesy comic book or action movies, I just watch. And I fall into, I love 80s action movies. 90s, there's still some good ones. So needless to say, License to Kill, it's Die Hard, James Bond. So that is like one of my, like I said, I'll use underrated, and I think it still holds up very well, but it's just something about that kind of a movie. And it has some cheesy stuff, I guess, looking back at it, but just if we're talking like those kind of comic book movies, I would say Blade falls into probably one of mine, I think.
Yeah.
I was watching Blade 2, actually. True story. I was watching Blade 2 a couple weeks ago. I'm like, I still kind of enjoy it to a point. But
I have to Blade and Blade too, as well. So.
Yeah, we won't talk about the third one. That didn't exist. Nope, didn't happen. Celebrating a birthday, and you will like this. Pinewood Studios, the home of James Bond, marks 80 years of checking the gate. It's been actually the production home for 007, Superman, Batman, the Alien series, Harry Potter, even Star Wars. And I just thought it was worth mentioning. Have you had a chance to go to Pinewood Studios?
No, I haven't. I wish I had, but never had the opportunity. So I'd love to do it. I'd love to do one of the sort of the Bond days that they do there around every September. I'd love to do that one year, but never quite worked out yet.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. Anytime I hear Pinewood, and even if it's not James Bond related, I of course think 007 Soundstage. There it is.
Oh, so, definitely.
Yeah. And with Star Wars, it was kind of cool that they did have Daniel Craig be a stormtrooper. And
that was excellent. Yeah, that was a great cameo.
That was it was like, because of everything Daniel Craig's, like, all the flack he's caught for, like, oh, I'd rather slash my wrist and stuff like that. Like, but he's willing to go in and do a Star Wars cameo without even like showing his face, and it seemed like he had a great time with it. So I think he's all around good guy. At least I hope he is. Christopher Waltz celebrated a birthday on October 4th, or will be celebrating a birthday on October 4th. He was. Yeah, spoiler alert, he's Blofeld. He's Inspector. Yeah, go see it. Make up your own opinion about that. We've talked about that already. I can never pronounce this name, but I can tell you that he played Defense Minister Dmitry Mishkin in GoldenEye. Tishay Cario celebrates a birthday on October 4th. And
actually, one of my favorite scenes, the fine art of interrogation.
Yes, it is. Yes. Oh man, it just, he puts down the Walther on the interrogation desk, and Bond saying, "Oh, what? No small talk, no chit chat." That's the problem with the world today. No one takes the time to do a sinister interrogation. Yeah. I probably butchered it, but yeah, still love it. Yep, very good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. And Miss Britt Eklund celebrates a birthday on October 6th. She was Miss Mary Goodnight in The Man with the Golden Gun. Like I said, very, very nice lady. And, not my favorite Bond movie, but I did enjoy just how she played the character in the movie. I think she knocked it out of the park with that. So,
I mean, we were talking earlier about, I mentioned Moonraker is one of the great unfilmed novels.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I really love them to do a proper Man with a Golden Gun as well, which is the book is a great revenge novel, and Mary Goodnight is actually a really good central character all the way through that book.
Okay.
That's another one that they've never really picked up and used the actual plot for a movie, and I think it would make a really good movie. My actually dream movie would have been to see that done with Timothy Dalton with Robert Darby playing Scaramanga.
I would have liked that.
And do an actual adaptation of Man with a Golden Gun. That would have been my dream Bond movie. But
yeah. Going back to villains, Robert Davey is a great villain.
Yes.
I mean, I still picture him in Die Hard as Agent Johnson, but when he is in License to Kill, he just sells me on that every time. He is very sinister. I mean, and that is a bloody James Bond, and he sells it. So
he does, yeah.
He does. All right, so let's move into the final part of the show where we compare movies of the Batman or James Bond universes versus other franchises in the same wheelhouse. This is called Versus. So last week I did a Versus, and needless to say, I was doing more James Bond related because Global James Bond Day. So with this Versus, it was Goldfinger versus Skyfall. I would just wanted to throw it out there because you have the older generation James Bond fans, you have the new generation James Bond fans, and, I think the comparisons can be made in there. It ended up, of course, being Goldfinger coming in at 64% when Skyfall was 36%, but I was still kind of surprised to see, like, how close Skyfall was, or just what Skyfall would get. So, I think we talked about it. Goldfinger is the template for James Bond movies. It has been forever. Something about, just the gadgets in there. There's always those gadgets. Vodka martini, shaken not stirred. The names of the Bond girls, Pussy Galore. I mean, sometimes they've kind of stretched it with it. I mean, but, still. Yeah. So this week's Versus is going to be a really hard one, especially if you are a Bond fan, given it's Global James Bond Week. Honor Majesty Secret Service versus Casino Royale. I can't wait to see what everybody is going to pick on this. I will be posting this up on Twitter. Make sure you vote for this. I will say that I'm going to go back and watch both of these movies this week. Sometime I'm going to find time in between my time at Comic-Con. Maybe on my bus ride up there, I will watch both of these. Everybody, or at least a lot of Bond fans, always come back to both these Bond movies. It's either Honor Majesty's Secret Service or Casino Royale. If you had to choose, you would still probably say Honor Majesty's Secret Service, I guess?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
But it's close. But it's a close call. I would say that both. I mean, Majesty's is my top, but Casino is definitely in my top 5. So yeah, that would be a close call.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm really curious to see what people are going to pick with these two movies. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I mean, they're just I don't know, something about those two Bond movies. They just define what a Bond movie is. At least in my mind, they do. Anyway. That wraps it up for this episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. Please subscribe on iTunes, rate it 5 stars, and leave a little nice review for me on there. Follow me on the various social media networks, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Batman vs. Bond. Alan, once again, you want to plug all your stuff again for me?
Okay. So Batman-wise, we have a project called Batman on the Cover, which is a history of Batman, publishing history of Batman. We post a new cover every day. We started in 1939. We're now up to 1946. So Monday through Friday, you'll see a new cover go up.
Mm-hmm.
Art details and story synopsis and who the characters were and little notes. You can find that on Batman on the Cover on Tumblr or Batman on the Cover on Instagram.
Okay.
And then James Bond-wise, you can follow us on Twitter at Bond Lexicon and on Tumblr at James Bond Lexicon. And you can just basically keep up with all my general writing stuff on Twitter at Alan J. Porter.
Awesome. Alan, it was a pleasure once again having you on here. I hope you had a good time on here.
Had a great time, thank you. You made me think about a few things I've never been asked before, which is always interesting.
You can always get back to me on there. You are always welcome back on the show if you ever want to come back on.
Thank you very much.
Great. Real quick, find my show on the BS Podcast Network. Also, be sure to check out all the other great programming on there, including Pure BS Podcast, Science Fiction Podcast, and Horribly Awkward Podcast. How about those names for some podcast? So, like James Bond, I will return. Until next time, I'm Brian Thomas. Thanks for listening, and have a great week, everyone. Peace out.